Look, I just don't care what nobody says. We do not have free will. Outside of free will, within the limitations of free will. So if I'm in a box that is 6 foot by 6 foot by 6 foot by 6 foot, then I am free to move within all that space. If that box is expanded to 9 foot by 9 foot by 9 foot, then I'm free to move within that space. My freedom is determined by some limits, some confines. I don't care what you say. So, um, I was at a. I hope this video don't go long, cause all right, had a basketball draft tonight. As y'all know, most y'all know who've been following my videos a while. I coach basketball. I'm a board member, um, a commissioner for rec league for division. So upper division, 7 acre boys commissioner. So we had a draft tonight, and at one point there was this argument, if you will, about some part of the process. And at the end, it was between the two guys mostly. It was basically the guy who was conducting the draft and one of the coaches. And at the end, they sort of got into it, and the one who was conducting it, um, who is a math teacher, he says something about the math, and the other guy says it's not about math, it's about logic. Kind of find out he's an English teacher. So when he said that, so they went for a little bit. I ended up going to the English teacher, and I said there's an interesting statement he said about it's not about math, it's about logic. Because ultimately, when we look at it, math is ultimately it's a closed system. Yes. Um, the only problem is you will find in math is if there's a problem with the person doing the math. I believe that's true. Yes. So then he ended up talking about his sister-in-law had done some math problem where she shows that point 0.9 for continuous infinity or whatever equals 1. And I was like, well, that's not right. Point 0.9 doesn't equal 1. And he said, well, yeah, she showed me. And then he happened to mention, too, going back to one guy who's a math teacher. And he says, yeah, I've seen somebody do something like that before. He said the problem was wrong. And he broke down how somebody did a problem, a proof, right? Proof that proved that 1 equals 2. And he wrote a little bit of it, and he shows that eventually you get to the part where there's a problem where it's a problem. It's a problem with the person doing the math, because it's not going to be a problem with the math. And he went to history why he got into being being a math teacher and going that way and getting a master's in math and whatnot, because he doesn't like subjectivity. Um, he don't like English. So it was interesting how these two came to clash, and how they actually have opposing views of fundamentally of each other, fundamentally, not them as persons, but of how basically how each person is, how they think, how they naturally think. um, so he said, English, is too subjective, because one English teacher want this, another want this for a paragraph, except this, and blah blah blah. Where math is, you do the problem correctly, it's gonna come out the same. The math is always gonna be the same, and the only time it's not the same, because it's not subjective, is when you have a problem. So the English teacher, he said initially, he said he thought math could be manipulated, and that's how he had a problem with it. And I think math can be manipulated. Well, if it is, it's still either it's gonna be wrong, or manipulation isn't a problem with the math, it's with the person. But I say if you manipulate it, you can either manipulate it correctly or you can manipulate it incorrectly, but it's going to show out and prove itself. It's going to prove that the manipulation was incorrect or wrong. But anyway, let's get into it. It shows how people inherently are wired. The English teacher, he had to be an English teacher. This way he's wired, and the math teacher ultimately had to be a math teacher. Like I said, he didn't subjectivity doesn't sit with him, and doesn't sit with me also. And so I was thinking, um, if I was speaking about that, that I would say that I don't like subjectivity also. But then I thought about that. Even me saying I don't like subjectivity, that's subjective. So it would be incorrect for me to say I don't like. It would be more correct, or whatever, if I would say that I have a problem understanding subjectivity. I understand it, but I have a problem understanding why it is that people utilize it, because I see a flaw in it. And I try to say that slowly and try to make sure I analyze that, because I'm trying to eliminate any subjectivity in that. I make it objective to me, inherent as a person, not my opinion, but how my brain works, the process of my brain working. That's not subjective. That's objective. There's a certain way that my mind works, my brain works, the way my synapses fire, and all that. And even though that may change, with a chemically, chemical imbalance, even that's still subjective. That would change how my mind works. I mean, that's the objective, and I could change how I operate, but not my subjectivity, but the objectivity of it. And I hope I stayed that correctly. So I was thinking, and that's the problem with me speaking in general, because I don't like. Okay, so since I like, there is a fear of me speaking and me not staying within myself, not speaking my language, me not staying in truth at all times. Um, and so I believe that ultimately, for me to speak on something and say something, I believe that ultimately I will actually have to extensively speak about something, almost maybe never stop, literally never stop talking about something. If I'm trying to get down to the core of it, the truth of it, trying to eliminate all subjectivity, that I may have to continuously talk, or I would have to say nothing whatsoever. So I believe I may have to be in a state of silence or continuous noise. I don't know if there's any in between. I don't even know if I could stop at saying the word truth. I may have to be off or on, 1 and 0. It goes, or there's that point. So maybe I'm talking about, go back to previous videos, that point of 1 and 0, that something and nothingness, that still point. Um, so that's what it is. That just came to mind. Putting out there for whatever it is worth.